Hello, hello, hello! Greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, hello there, hello there. Hello there, Lurking Yoshi. Congratulations on getting first. Hello there, Yulin20. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello indeed. And hello there, Firefly. Welcome. Good evening to you as well. Lurking Yoshi, I love reading series. Well, good, good. I'm glad to hear it. Yulin20, oh yes, and this is one of the best. Oh, you're making me blush. Lurking Yoshi, gonna lurk and listen. Well, go ahead. Always happy to have even a lurker in here, as long as you're enjoying yourself. Hello there, Dr. Zadium. Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you all doing this fine afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, across this vast, amazing multiverse? I hope you're all doing well. As for me, it's been a rainy day, another rainy, rainy day. Uh, Horace and I were just lathering the books. And I don't mean that in innuendo. We were literally lathering the books. They were all messy. It was spaghetti day in one of the rooms, and Virgil and Ovid got a little too active about it. Mm. But anyway, Firefly, it's in the 90s here today. Oh my goodness. Stay cool. I hope you managed to stay cool. Oh, high temperatures are not fun. I remember one time, I don't know how long ago because time means nothing here. Um, it we had no form of air conditioning in this place, and it got up to 90 inside the study, and it was absolutely miserable. You were literally praying for sleep. I mean, I don't need to sleep physically, but you were literally praying that somehow you would pass out in the middle of the night and get some rest. Oh, it was awful. It was so awful. Dr. Zadium, it's almost 90 here. Oh, and congratulations on the 3 stream streak, Dr. Zadium. Wow. Firefly, it's like almost 80 in the dining room because all the air comes out at the other end of the house. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a nightmare. Please, please, please be careful. All you scholars who are in hot areas, please be careful. Keep yourselves hydrated and keep yourselves cool. I don't want to see anything happen to you. Oh my goodness. I need a little bit of some water. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I digress. Tonight, my dear scholars, we are continuing our reading of The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. Ah, been having a lot of fun with this one. Um, Last time we read Robin Hood. How do I put this slightly without sounding awful? He pretended to be a butcher and played with his meat. Not played. I mean, sold his meat. He sold his meat. That doesn't sound much better. Oh, I apologize for that. Dr. Stadium, too late. It's too late for it. Oh, Little John, Julian20 say what? Indeed, yeah. It's the way the book worded it. Little John went to the fair, beat up a man with a stick, got employed by the sheriff, then decided, Julian20 naughty. I am not naughty. I am a pure being. I am not naughty. I'm a good omniversal being. Dr. Zadium, meet a fun plaything for all. No, 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 don't you start, Zadium. Don't you start. Do not start. This is a nice place with nice people. So stop. Oh, Julian 20 depends on the meat. I don't even know what to say to that at this point. Dr. Zanium, okay, I'll meet you. No! No! No, Dr. Zanium, bad! Private Maverick, we have the meats. That sounds familiar. I don't know where. Ugh, making me hungry. But yes, Julian 20 meat. As I was saying. Oh, hello there, Dragon Thunder 5000. Welcome. I am being barraged by mean people who want to barrage me with puns. As I was saying, we are going to continue the reading. And we are going to read it and not talk about certain food substances which come from animals. Is that understood? Dr. Dragon Thunder, milk? Okay, that's okay. Say tallow. Okay. I kind of casted a wide net there. But anyway, we are going to continue reading. We're going to try and get through 3 chapters like last time. And hopefully it will go well. So, my dear scholars, are you ready to continue our journey into the world of the merry adventures of Robin Hood? And not talk about certain things? I will take that as a yes. Dr. Zadium, I am ready to meet this. I, I, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know how to answer that. Okay. Alright, so sit back, relax, have a hot or cold beverage of your liking, dim the lights if needed, and let us continue our reading of The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. Part 3rd. Recounting 3 merry adventures that befell Robin Hood and certain others, by which he gained sore bones and 3 good merry men, all in one day. So this is all going to happen in one day. Wow. Quite eventful. 1. Little John and the Tanner of Blythe. It often comes about in this world that unlucky happenings fall upon one in such measure that it seems, as the saying is, that every cat that one strokes flies into one's face. What an odd saying. Private Maverick, dim the lights and give yourself fine sight. No. I've got plenty of light here. I'm talking about you, my dear scholars. Thus it was with Robin Hood and Little John one bright day in the merry Maytime. So listen, and you shall hear how Dame Luck so buffeted them that their bones were sore for many a day thereafter. That sounds absolutely horrible. One fine day, not long after Little John had left abiding with the sheriff and had come back with his worship's cook to the merry greenwood as had just been told, Robin Hood and a few chosen fellows of his band lay upon the soft sward beneath the greenwood tree where they dwelt. The day was warm and sultry, so that whilst most of the band were scattered through the forest upon this mission and upon that, These few stout fellows lay lazily beneath the shade of the tree in the soft afternoon, passing jests among themselves and telling merry stories with laughter and mirth. All the air was laden with the bitter fragrance of the May, and all the bosky shades of the woodlands beyond rang with the sweet song of birds, the throstle cock, the cuckoo, and the wood pigeon. And with the song of the birds mingled the cool sound of the gurgling brook that leapt out of the forest shades and ran fretting amidst its rough gray stones across the sunlight open glade before the trysting tree. And a fair sight was that half score of tall, stout yeomen, not yeomen, I meant yeomen, all clad in Lincoln green, lying beneath the broad, spreading branches of the great oak tree, amid the quivering leaves of which the sunlight shivered and fell in dancing patches upon the grass. The good old times have gone by when such grow as grew then, when sturdy quarterstaff and longbow toughened a man's thews till they were like leather. Around Robin Hood that day there lay the very flower of English yeomanry. Mm. Here the great Little John, with limbs as tough as the gnarled oak, yet grown somewhat soft from good living at the sheriff's house in Nottingham town. There Will Studley, his face as brown as a berry from the sun and wind, but for all that the comeliest yeoman in the mid-country, only excepting Allan a Dale, the minstrel, of whom you shall hear anon. Beside these were Will Scathlock, as lank as a greyhound, yet as fleet of foot as a buck of 3 years' growth. Young David of Doncaster, with great stout limbs only less than those of Little John in size, the tender beard of early youth now just feathering his chin, and others of great renown both far and near. Suddenly Robin Hood smote his knee. "By St. Dunstan," quoth he, "I have nigh forgot that quarter day cometh on apace, and yet no cloth of Lincoln green in all our store. It must be looked to, and that in quick season. Come, busk thee, Little John, stir those lazy bones of thine, for thou must get thee straightway to our good gossip, the Drapier, Hugh Longshanks of Ancaster. Bid him send us straightway 20 yards of fair cloth of Lincoln green, and mayhap the journey may take some of the fat from off thy bones, that thou hast gotten from lazy living at our dear sheriff's." "Nay, nay," muttered Little John, for he had heard so much upon this score that he was sore upon the point. "Nay, truly, mayhap I have more flesh upon my joints than I once had, yet flesh or no flesh, I don't know that I could still hold my place and footing upon a narrow bridge against e'er a yeoman in Sherwood or Nottinghamshire. For the matter of that, even though he had no more fat about his bones than thou hast, good master." At this reply a great shout of laughter went up, and all looked at Robin Hood, for each man knew that Little John spake of a certain fight that happened between their master and himself, through which they first became acquainted. "Nay," quoth Robin Hood, laughing louder than all, "heaven forbid that I should doubt thee, for I care for no taste of thy staff myself, Little John. I must needs own that there are those of my band can handle a 7-foot staff more deftly than I, yet no man in all Nottinghamshire can draw a grey goose shaft with my fingers. Nevertheless, a journey to Ancaster may not be ill for thee, so go thou, as I bid, and thou hadst best go this very evening, for since thou hast abided at the sheriff's many know thy face, and if thou goest in broad daylight, thou mayest get thyself into a coil with some of his worship's men-at-arms. Bide thou here till I bring thee money to pay our good Hugh. I warrant he has no better customers in all Nottinghamshire than we." So saying, Robin left them and entered the forest. Not far from the trysting tree was a great rock, in which a chamber had been hewn, the entrance being barred by a massive oaken door, 2 palms' breadth in thickness, studded about with spikes, and faceted with a great padlock. This was the treasure house of the band, and thither Robin Hood went, and unlocking the door entered the chamber, from which he brought forth a bag of gold which he gave to Little John, to pay Hugh Longshanks withal, for the cloth of Lincoln green. So it sounds like Robin doesn't actually give all the money to the poor. He, as some people point out, he most likely gives a large amount, but keeps some for himself and his band. I mean, you need it if you're going to survive out there. Then up got Little John, and taking the bag of gold, which he thrust into his bosom, he strapped a girdle about his loins. I don't know why that makes me laugh. Took a stout pike staff full 7 feet long in his hand, and set forth upon his journey. So he strode whistling along the leafy forest path that led to Fossyway, turning neither to the right hand nor the left, until at last he came to where the path branched, leading on the one hand onward to Fossyway, and on the other, as well Little John knew, to the Merry Blue Boar Inn. You lean 20 sirloins? Meat? No, no, no! Firefly, because loin is a meat. No! No meat, no meat. We do not talk about meat tonight. This is a non-meat stream. No meat. Here Little John suddenly ceased whistling, and stopped in the middle of the path. First he looked up, and then he looked down, and then tilting his cap over one eye, he slowly scratched the back part of his head. For thus it was, at the sight of these 2 roads. 2 voices began to alarum within him, the one crying, "There lies the road to Blue Boar Inn, a can of brown October, and a merry night with sweet companions such as thou mayest find there." The other, "There lies the way to Ancaster, and the duty thou art set upon." Now, the first of these 2 voices was far the louder, for Little John had grown passing fond of good living, through abiding at the sheriff's house. So presently, looking up into the blue sky, across which bright clouds were sailing like silver boats, and swallows skimming in circling flights, quoth he, I fear me it will rain this evening, so I'll e'en stop at the Blue Boar till it passes by, for I know my good master would not have me wet to the skin." So, without more ado, off he strode down the path that lay the way of his likings. Now, there was no sign of any foul weather, but when one wishes to do a thing, as Little John did, one finds no lack of reasons for the doing. 4 merry wags were at the Blue Boar Inn, a butcher, a beggar, and 2 barefoot friars. Little John heard them singing from afar as he walked through the hush of the mellow twilight that was now falling over hill and dale. Right glad were they to welcome such a merry blade as Little John. Fresh cans of ale were brought, and with jest and song and give me a second, page is stuck, and merry tales, the hours slipped away on fleeting wings. None thought of time or tide till the night was so far gone that Little John put by the thought of setting forth upon his journey again that night, and so bided at the Blue Boar Inn until the morrow. Sorry. Now, it was an ill piece of luck for Little John that he left his duty for his pleasure, and he paid a great score for it, as we are all apt to do in the same case, as you shall see. Up he rose at the dawn of the next day, and taking his stout pike staff in his hand, he set forth upon his journey once more, as though he would make up for lost time. In the good town of Blythe there lived a stout tanner, celebrated far and near for feats of strength and many tough bouts at wrestling and the quarterstaff. For 5 years he had held the mid-country champion belt for wrestling. Wait, what? They had they had they had tournament belts back then? Now that's interesting. Didn't know about that. Till the great Admiral Lincoln cast him in the ring and broke one of his ribs. But at quarterstaff he had never yet met his match in all the country about. Besides all this, he dearly loved the longbow, and a sly jaunt in the forest when the moon was full and the dun deer in season, so that the king's rangers kept a shrewd eye upon him and his doings. For Arthur a Bland's house was apt to have a plenty of meat in it that was more like venison than the law allowed. Of course, they had to mention meat. Now Arthur had been to Nottingham town the day before Little John set forth on his errand, there to sell a half score of tanned cowhides. At the dawn of the same day that Little John left the inn, he started from Nottingham, homeward for Blythe. His way led all in the dewy morn past the verge of Sherwood Forest, where the birds were welcoming the lovely day with a great and merry jubilee. Across the tanner's shoulders was slung his stout quarterstaff, ever near enough to him to be gripped quickly, and on his head was a cap of doubled cowhide, so tough that it could hardly be cloven even by a broadsword. "Now," quoth Arthur a Bland to himself when he had come to that part of the road that cut through a corner of the forest, "no doubt at this time of year the dun deer are coming from the forest depths nigher to the open meadowlands. Mayhap I may chance to catch a sight of the dainty brown darlings thus early in the morn." For there was nothing he loved better than to look upon a tripping herd of deer, even when he could not tickle their ribs with a cloth-yard shaft. Accordingly, quitting the path, he went peeping this way and that through the underbrush, spying now here and now there with all the wiles of a master of woodcraft, and of one that had more than once donned a doublet of Lincoln green. Oh, it's kind of neat that this tanner, even though he really doesn't always hunt, he likes looking at nature. That's kind of a sweet little angle for the character. Now, as Little John stepped blithely along, thinking of nothing but of such things as the sweetness of the hawthorn buds that bedecked the hedgerows, or the crab trees that stood here and there all covered with fair, fair pink blossoms, or gazing upward at the lark, that, springing from the dewy grass, hung aloft on quivering wings in the yellow sunlight, pouring forth its song that fell like a falling star from the sky. His luck led him away from the highway, not far from the spot where Arthur a Bland was peeping this way and that through the leaves of the thickets. Hearing a rustling of the branches, Little John stopped, and presently caught sight of the brown cowhide cap of the tanner moving among the bushes. "I do much wonder," quoth Little John to himself, "what yon knave is after, that he should go this peeping and peering about. I verily believe that yon scurvy varlet is no better than a thief, and cometh here after our own and the good king's dun deer." For by much roving in the forest, Little John had come to look upon all the deer in Sherwood as belonging to Robin Hood and his band, as much as to good King Harry. "Nay," quoth he again after a time, "this matter must e'en be looked into." So, quitting the high road, he also entered the thickets, and began spying around after stout Arthur a Bland. So, for a long time that both of them went hunting about, Little John after the tanner, and the tanner after the deer. At last Little John trod upon a stick, which snapped under his foot, whereupon, hearing the noise, the tanner turned quickly and caught sight of the yeoman. Seeing that the tanner had spied him out, Little John put a bold face upon the matter. "Hallo!" quoth he, "what art thou doing here, thou naughty fellow? Who art thou that comest ranging Sherwood's paths? In very sooth thou hast an evil cast of countenance, and I do think truly that thou art no better than a thief, and comest after our good king's deer." "Nay," quoth the tanner boldly, for though taken by surprise, he was not a man to be frightened by big words. "Thou liest in thy teeth. I am no thief, but an honest craftsman. As for my countenance, it is what it is, and for the matter of that, thine own is none too pretty, thou saucy fellow." "Ha!" quoth Little John in a great loud voice. Wouldst thou give me back talk? Now I have a great part of a mind to crack thy pate for thee. I would have thee know, fellow, that I am as it were one of the king's foresters. Leastwise," muttered he to himself, "I and my friends do take good care of our good sovereign's deer." "I care not who thou art," answered the bold tanner, "and unless thou hast many more of thy kind by thee, thou canst never make Arthur a Bland cry, mercy." "Is it so?" cried Little John in a rage. "Now, by my faith, thou saucy rogue, thy tongue hath led thee into a pit. It's hard to keep this. It's hard to do his dialogue. Where was I? "Now, by my faith, thou saucy rogue, thy tongue hath led thee into a pit thou wilt have a sorry time getting out of. For I will give thee such a drubbing as ne'er hast thou had in all thy life before. Take thy staff in thy hand, fellow, for I will not smite an unarmed man." "Marry, come up with a murrain!" cried the tanner, for he too had talked himself into a fume. "Big words ne'er killed so much as a mouse. Who art thou that talkest so freely of cracking the head of Arthur a Bland?" "Julian 20, time to go to dance class. Bye." "Oh, have a good time there, Julian 20. Thank you for coming."
"If I do not tan thy hide this day as ne'er I tan a calf's hide in all my life before, split my staff into skewers for lamb's flesh, and call me no more brave man. Now, look to thyself, fellow."
"Stay," said Little John. "Let us first measure our cudgels. I do reckon my staff longer than thine, and I would not take vantage of thee by even so much as an inch."
"Nay, I pass not for length,"
answered the tanner.
"My staff is long enough to knock down a calf. So look to thyself, fellow, I say again."
So, without much ado, each gripped his staff in the middle, and with fell and angry looks, they came slowly together. Can I get a drink of water? Ooh, a little dizzy. Oh my goodness. Got a little dizzy there reading. Now, news had been brought to Robin Hood how that Little John, instead of doing his bidding, had passed by duty for pleasure, and so had stopped overnight with merry company at the Blue Boar Inn, instead of going straight to Ancaster. So, being vexed to his heart by this, he set forth at dawn of day to seek Little John at the Blue Boar, or at least to meet the yeoman on the way, and ease his heart of what he thought of the matter. As thus he strode along in anger, putting together the words he would use to chide Little John, he heard of a sudden loud and angry voices, as of men in a rage, passing fell words back and forth from one to the other. At this Robin Hood stopped and listened. "Surely," quoth he to himself, "that is Little John's voice, and he is talking in anger also. Methinks the other is strange to my ears. Now heaven forfend, heaven forfend, that my good trusty Little John should have fallen into the hands of the King's Rangers. I must see to this matter, and that quickly." Thus spoke Robin Hood to himself, all his anger passing away like a breath from the window pane, at the thought that perhaps his trusty right-hand man was in some danger of his life. So cautiously he made his way through the thickets, whence the voices came, and pushing aside the leaves, peeped into the little open space where the two men, staff in hand, were coming slowly together. "Ha!" quoth Robin to himself, "here is merry sport afoot. Now I would give 3 golden angels from my own pocket if yon stout fellow would give Little John a right sound drubbing. It would please me to see him well thumped for having failed in my bidding. I fear me, though, there is but poor chance of my seeing such a pleasant sight. Oh my goodness, Robin actually wants to see him beat up. Oh, well, that's a friend for you." So saying, he stretched himself at length upon the ground, that he might not only see the sport the better, but that he might enjoy the merry sight at his ease. As you may have seen two dogs that think to fight walking slowly round and round each other, neither cur wishing to begin the combat, so those two stout yeomen moved slowly around, each watching for a chance to take the other unaware, and so get in the first blow. At last, Little John struck like a flash, and rap! The tanner met the blow, and turned it aside, and then smote back at Little John, who also turned the blow, and so this mighty battle began. Then up and down and back and forth they trod, the blows falling so thick and fast that at a distance one would have thought that half a score of men were fighting. Thus they fought for nigh half an hour, until the ground was all ploughed up with the digging of their heels, and their breathing grew labored like the ox in the furrow. But Little John suffered the most, for he had become unused to such stiff labor, and his joints were not as supple as they had been before he went to dwell with the sheriff. All this time Robin Hood lay beneath the bush, rejoicing at such a comely bout of quarterstaff. "By my faith," quoth he to himself, "never had I thought to see Little John so evenly matched in all my life. Belike, though, he would have overcome yon fellow before this had he been in his former trim." At last Little John saw his chance, and throwing all the strength he felt going from him into one blow that might have felled an ox, he struck at the tanner with might and main. And now did the tanner's cowhide cap stand him in good stead, and but for it he might never have held staff in hand again. Oh my god, you mean Little John was going for a killing blow, it sounds like. Oh my goodness. As it were, the blow he caught beside the head was so shrewd that it sent him staggering across the little glade, so that if Little John had had the strength to follow up his vantage, it would have been ill for stout Arthur. But he regained himself quickly, and at arm's length struck back a blow at Little John, and this time the stroke reached its mark, and down went Little John at full length, his cudgel flying from his hand as he fell. Then raising his staff, stout Arthur dealt him another blow upon the ribs. Hold! roared Little John. Wouldst thou strike a man when he is down?
Aye, marry would I,
quoth the tanner, giving him another thwack with his staff. Stop! roared Little John. Help! Hold, I say! I yield me! I say, good fellow!
Hast thou had enough?
asked the tanner, grimly, holding his staff aloft. Ay, marry, and more than enough.
And thou dost own that I am the better man of the two?
Yea, truly, and a murrain seize thee, said Little John, the first aloud and the last to his beard.
Then thou mayst go thy ways, and thank thy patron saints that I am a merciful man,
said the tanner. A plague, o such mercy as thine, said Little John, sitting up and feeling his ribs where the tanner had cudgelled him. I make my vow, my ribs feel as though every one of them were broken in twain. I tell ye, good fellow, I did think there was never a man in all Nottinghamshire could do to me what thou hast done this day. And so thought I also, cried Robin Hood, bursting out of the thicket and shouting with laughter till the tears ran down his cheeks. Oh, man, said he, as well as he could for his mirth. A didst go over like a bottle knocked from a wall. I did see the whole merry bout, and never did I think to see thee yield thyself so, hand and foot, to any man in all merry England. I was seeking thee, to chide thee for leaving my bidding undone, but thou hast been paid all I owed thee, full measure, pressed down and overflowing, by this good fellow. Merry, a did reach out his arm full length while thou stood gaping at him, and with a pretty rap tumbled thee over as never have I seen one tumbled before. So spoke bold Robin, and all this time Little John sat upon the ground, looking as though he had sour curds in his mouth. What may be thy name, good fellow? said Robin, next turning to the tanner.
Men do call me Arthur a Bland,
spoke up the tanner boldly.
And now what may be thy name?
Ha! Arthur a Bland, quoth Robin. I have heard thy name before, good fellow. Thou didst break the crown of a friend of mine at the fair at Ely last October. The folk there called him Jocko Nottingham. We call him Will Scathlock. This poor fellow whom thou hast so belaboured is counted the best hand at the quarterstaff in all merry England. His name is Little John, and mine Robin Hood.
How?
cried the tanner.
Art thou indeed the great Robin Hood, and is this the famous Little John? Marry, had I known who thou art, I would never have been so bold as to lift my hand against thee. Let me help thee to thy feet, good master Little John, and let me brush the dust from off thy coat.
Nay, quoth Little John testily, at the same time rising carefully, as though his bones had been made of glass. I can help myself, good fellow, without thy aid. Let me tell thee, had it not been for that vile cowskin cap of thine, it would have been ill for thee this day. At this Robin laughed again, and turning to Tanner, he said, Wilt thou join my band, good Arthur? For I make my vow thou art one of the stoutest men that ever mine eyes beheld.
Will I join thy band?
cried the Tanner joyfully.
Aye, marry will I. Hey for a merry life,
cried he, leaping aloft and snapping his fingers.
And hey for the life I love. Away with tan bark and filthy vats and foul cowhides. I will follow thee to the ends of the earth, good master, and not a herd of dun deer in all the forest but shall know the sound of the twain of my bowstring.
Now, I don't know if any of you have ever gone past a tanner's or a tanning location, But Arthur isn't wrong when he describes it as a foul business because of the solutions they have to use to work cowhide. The smell that comes out of a tanning area is absolutely wretched. It smells terrible. So Arthur, when he's saying about having no more having to do that foul work, he's not wrong. It is an awful, awful work. I mean, it of course was necessary back then, but it is an awful business. Firefly human waste used to be used. Oh yes, yes, and nowadays I think it's lye that's used, some form of lye, but both it just gives a horrible scent. As for thee, Little John, said Robin, turning to him and laughing, thou wilt start once more for Ancaster, and we will go part way with thee, for I will not have thee turn again to either the right hand or the left, till thou hast fairly gotten away from Sherwood. There are other inns that thou knowest yet hereabouts. Thereupon, leaving the thickets, they took once more to the highway, and departed upon their business. Ooh, the next little chapter we're going to read is has a little bit more of a famous character in it. Give me 1 second, my dear scholars. Where the heck is that thing? Oh. Excuse me. Okay. 2. Robin Hood and Will Scarlet. Thus they travelled along the sunny road, 3 stout fellows such as you could hardly match anywhere else in all merry England. Many stopped to gaze after them as they strode along, so broad were their shoulders and so sturdy their gait. Quoth Robin Hood to Little John, why didst thou not go straight into Ancaster yesterday, as I told thee? Thou hast not gotten thyself into such a coil hast thou done as I ordered. I fear the rain that threatened, said Little John in a sullen tone, for he was vexed at being so chafed by Robin with what had happened to him. The rain? Cried Robin, stopping of a sudden in the middle of the road, and looking at Little John in wonder. Why, thou great oaf! Not a drop of rain has fallen these 3 days. Neither has any threatened, nor hath there been a sign of foul weather in earth or sky or water. Nevertheless, growled Little John, the holy Saint Swithan holdeth the waters of the heavens in his pewter pot, and he could have poured them out, had he chosen, even from a clear sky. And wouldst thou have had me wet to the skin? At this Robin Hood burst into a roar of laughter. "Oh, Little John," said he, what butter wits hast thou in that head of thine? Who could hold anger against such a one as thou art? So saying, they all stepped out once more, with the right foot foremost, as the saying is. After they had travelled some distance, the day being warm and the road dusty, Robin Hood waxed thirsty, so there being a fountain of water as cold as ice, just behind the hedgerow, they crossed the stile and came to where the water bubbled up from beneath a mossy stone. Here, kneeling and making cups of the palms of their hands, they drank their fill, and then the spot being cool and shady, they stretched their limbs and rested them for a space. Don't drink water out of the wild, it is not good for you. In front of them, over beyond the hedge, the dusty road stretched away from the plain, across the plain. Behind them, the meadow lands and bright green fields of tender young corn lay broadly in the sun, and overhead spread the shade of the cool, rustling leaves of the beechen tree. Pleasantly to their nostrils came the tender fragrance of the purple violets and wild thyme that grew within the dewy moisture of the edge of the little fountain. And pleasantly came the soft gurgle of the water. All else was sunny silence, broken only now and then by the crow of a distant cock, borne up to them on the wings of the soft and gentle breeze, or the drowsy drone of the humble bee burrowing in the clover blossoms that grew in the sun, or the voice of the busy housewife in the nearest farmhouse. All was so pleasant and so full of gentle joy of the bright Maytime that for a long time no one of the three cared to speak, but each lay on his back, gazing up through the trembling leaves of the trees to the bright sky overhead. At last Robin, whose thoughts were not quite so busy wool gathering as those of the others, and who had been gazing around him now and then, broke the silence. "Heyday!" quoth he, "yon is a gaily feathered bird. I take my vow." The others looked and saw a young man walking slowly down the highway. Gay was he. How can you tell that, Robin? Oh, never mind. I'll keep going. Gay was he indeed, as Robin had said, and a fine figure he cut. Narrator, you're not helping matters here. A fine figure he cut, for his doublet was of scarlet silk, and his stockings also. A handsome sword hung by his side, the embossed leathern scabbard being picked out with fine threads of gold. His cap was of scarlet velvet, and a broad feather hung down behind and back of one ear. His hair was long and yellow and curled upon his shoulders, and in his hand he bore an early rose, which he smelt at daintily now and then. "By my life," quoth Robin Hood, laughing, "saw ye e'er such a—" That went into a Scotch accent, I apologize. "Saw ye e'er such a pretty mincing fellow?"
Truly his clothes have overmuch prettiness for my taste,
quoth Arthur a Bland.
but nevertheless his shoulders are broad and his loins are narrow. And seest thou, good master, how that his arms hang from his body? They dangle not like spindles, but hang stiff and bend at the elbows. I take my vow there be no bread and milk limbs in those fine clothes, but stiff joints and tough thews."
"Methinks thou art right, friend Arthur," said Little John. "I do verily think that yon is no such rose-leaf and whipped cream gallant as he would have one take him to be." "Pah!" quoth Robin Hood, "the sight of such a fellow doth put a nasty taste into my mouth." "Oh, you are so judgmental, Robin. Why?" "Look how he doth hold that fair flower betwixt his thumb and finger, as he would say, Good rose, I like thee not so ill, but I can bear thy odour for a little while. I take it ye are both wrong, and very believe that were a furious mouse to run across his path, he would cry, La! or Alackaday, and fall straightway into a swoon. I wonder who he may be."
"Some great baron's son, I doubt not,"
answered Little John, "with good and true men's money lining sorry, with good and true men's money lining his purse." "Ay, marry, that is true, I make no doubt," quoth Robin. "What a pity that such men as he, that have no thought but to go abroad in gay clothes, should have good fellows whose shoes that are not fit to tie, dancing at their bidding. By St. Dunstan, St. Alfred, St. Withold, and all the good men in the Saxon calendar, it doth make me mad to see such gay lordings from over the sea go stepping on the necks of good Saxons, who owned this land before ever their great grandsire chewed right of brawn. By the bright bow of heaven, I will have their ill-gotten gains from them, even though I hang for it as high as e'er a forest tree in Sherwood." Again The whole Saxon versus Norman thing by this point in history was long dead. Long, long dead. Most of the people who were alive wouldn't even remember a time before the Normans came. And there, at this point, the Normans had so integrated with no, the English nobility and others, that they were just English. Although French was spoken in the royal court, I believe, still. Excuse me. Why, how now, master? Quoth Little John. What heat is this? Thou dost set thy pot a boiling, and mayhap no bacon to cook. Methinks yon fellow's hair is over light for Norman locks. He may be a good man, and true for aught thou knowest. That's a very odd judgment about the hair, too. Nay, said Robin, my head against a leaden farthing. He is what I say. We never saw ye Saxon mince along like that, as though he feared to muddy the toes of his shoes. At least I will go forth to stop him, and see whether his purse be free of foul money. If I am wrong, then he may go forward upon his journey without the loss of so much as a groat. But if I am right, I will pluck him as close as ever a goose was plucked live for feathers in midsummer. Kintron, one of my old friends with his master's in history, used to say he was both sides of the war. His name was Norman Stewart. Kint No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine, horse. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm calm. I'm reasonable. I'm alright. Hello there, Kintron. Welcome. Thank you for the story. Oh, also, hello there, Densuo. Welcome. We are in the middle of reading Robin Hood. And hello there, Zen. Welcome. Glad to have you all here. We are in the middle of Robin Hood. Densuo reasonable. He's gone insane. I am not insane. I am perfectly sane. I have been insane my entire existence. It takes a lot more than that to break me. Where was I? Thou sayest he is a sturdy fellow, Little John. Lie thou there, and watch till I show thee how woodland life toughens a man, as easy living, such as thine hath been of late, drags him down. So lie ye both here, I say, till I show you how I drub this fellow. So saying, Robin Hood stepped forth from the shade of the beech tree, crossed the stile, and stood in the middle of the road, with his hands on his hips in the stranger's path. Meanwhile, the stranger, who had been walking so slowly that all this talk was held before he came opposite the place where they were, neither quickened his pace, nor seemed to see that such a man as Robin Hood was in the world. So Robin stood in the middle of the road, waiting while the other walked slowly forward, smelling his rose and looking this way and that, and everywhere except at Robin. "Hold!" cried Robin, when at last the other had come close to him. Hold! Stand where thou art! Wherefore should I hold, good fellow? Said the stranger in soft and gentle voice. And wherefore should I stand where I am? Neither less as thou dost desire that I should stay. I will abide for a short time, that I may hear what thou mayest have to say to me. Then, quoth Robin, as thou dost so fairly do as I tell thee, and dost give me such soft speech, I will also treat thee with all due courtesy. I would have thee know, fair friend, that I am, as it were, a vantry at the shrine of St. Wilfrid, who thou mayest know, took willy-nilly all their gold from the heathen, and melted it up into candlesticks. Wherefore, upon such as come hereabouts, I levy a certain toll, which I use for a better purpose, I hope, than to make candlesticks withal. Therefore, sweet chuck, I would have thee deliver to me thy purse, that I may look into it, and judge to the best of my poor powers whether thou hast more wealth about thee than our law allows. For, as our good gaffer Swathold saith, he who is fat from overliving must needs lose blood. All this time the youth had been sniffing at the rose that he held betwixt his thumb and finger. Nay, said he with a gentle smile when Robin Hood had done, I do love to hear thee talk, thou pretty fellow, and if haply thou art not yet done, finish. I beseech thee, I have yet some little time to stay. I have said all, quoth Robin, and now, if thou wilt give me thy purse, I will let thee go thy way without let or hindrance, as soon as I shall see what where are we? Sorry. As soon as I shall see what it may hold. I will take none from thee if thou hast but little. Alas, it doth grieve me much, said the other, that I cannot do as thou dost wish. I have nothing to give thee. Let me go my way, I pray thee. I have done thee no harm. Nay, thou goest not, quoth Robin, till thou hast shown me thy purse. Good friend, said the other gently, I have business elsewhere. I have given thee much time, and have heard thee patiently. Pray thee, let me depart in peace. I have spoken to thee, friend, said Robin sternly, and I now tell thee again, thou goest not one step forward till thou hast done as I bid thee. So saying, he raised his quarterstaff above his head in a threatening way. Alas, said the stranger sadly, it doth grieve me that this thing must be. I fear much that I must slay thee, thou poor fellow. So saying, he drew his sword. Put by thy weapon, quoth Robin. I would take no advantage of thee. Thy sword cannot stand against an oaken staff such as mine. I would snap it like a barley straw. Yonder is a good oaken thicket by the roadside. Take thee a cudgel thence, and defend thyself fairly, if thou hast a taste for a sound drubbing. First the stranger measured Robin with his eye, and then he measured the oaken staff. Thou art right, good fellow, said he presently. Truly my sword is no match for that cudgel of thine. Bide thee a while till I get my staff. So saying, he threw aside the rose that he had been holding all this time, thrust his sword back into the scabbard, and with a more hasty step than he had yet used, stepped to the roadside where grew the little clump of ground oaks Robin had spoken of. Choosing among them, he presently found a sapling to his liking. He did not cut it, but, rolling up his sleeves a little ways, he laid hold of it, placed his heel against the ground, and with one mighty pull plucked the young tree up by the roots from out of the very earth. Then he came back, trimming away the roots and tender stems with his sword as quietly as if he had done naught to speak of. Little John and the tanner had been watching all that passed, but when they saw the stranger drag the sapling up from the earth, and heard the rending and snapping of his roots, the tanner pursed his lips together, drawing his breath between them in a long inward whistle. "By the breath of my body," said Little John as soon as he could gather his wits from their wonder, "sawest thou that, Arthur? Marry, I think our poor master will stand but an ill chance with yon fellow. By Our Lady, he plucked up yon green tree as if it were a barley straw." And yeah, he has to be strong to be able to pick up and pull something that sturdy. Trees such as that, even saplings, and especially saplings which are, as they said, green, so healthy, young, are very, very, very tough to remove from the ground, especially by hand, which I could not do. I don't think. Well, some people can do it, but I could never do it. It takes a lot of arm strength to do that sort of thing. Whatever Robin thought, he stood his ground, and now he and the stranger in scarlet stood face to face. Well did Robin Hood hold his own that day as a mid-country yeoman. This way and that they fought, and back and forth. Robin's skill against the stranger's strength. The dust of the highway rose up around them like a cloud, so that at times Little John and the tanner could see nothing, but only hear the rattle of the staves against one another. Thrice Robin Hood struck the stranger, once upon the arm and twice upon the ribs, and yet had he warded all the other blows, only one of which, had it met its mark, would have laid stout Robin lower in the dust than he had ever gone before. At last the stranger struck Robin's cudgel so fairly in the middle that he could hardly hold his staff in his hand. Again he struck, and Robin bent beneath the blow. A third time he struck, and now not only fairly beaten down Robin's guard, but gave him such a rap also that down he tumbled into the dusty road. "Hold!" cried Robin Hood when he saw the stranger raising his staff once more. "I yield me." Give me a second. Need a more drink. Water. "Hold!" cried Little John, bursting from his covers with the tanner at his heels. "Hold! Give over, I say!" "Nay," answered the stranger quietly, "if there be two more of you, and each as stout as this good fellow, I am like to have my hands full. Nevertheless, come on, and I will strive my best to serve you all." "Stop!" cried Robin Hood. "We will fight no more. I take my vow. This is an ill day for thee and me, Little John. I do verily believe that my wrist and eke my arm are palsied by the jar of the blow that this stranger struck me." Then Little John turned to Robin Hood. "Why, how now, good master?" said he. "Alas, thou art in a ill plight. Marry, thy jerkin is all befouled with the dust of the road. Let me help thee to arise." "A plague on thy aid!" cried Robin angrily. "I can get to my feet without thy help, good fellow." "Nay, but let me at least dust thy coat for thee. I fear thy poor bones are mightily sore," quoth Little John soberly, but with a sly twinkle in his eyes. "Get over, I say," quoth Robin in a fume. My coat hath been dusted enough already, without aid of thine." Then turned to the stranger, he said, excuse me, "What be thy name, good fellow?" "My name is Gamwell," answered the other. "Ha!" cried Robin. "Is it even so? I have near kin of that name. Whence camest thou, fair friend?" "From Maxfield town I come," answered the stranger. "There was I born and bred, and thence I come to seek my mother's young brother, whom men call Robin Hood. So if perchance thou mayest direct me. Ha! Will Gamwell! cried Robin, placing both hands upon the other's shoulders and holding him off at arm's length. Surely it can be none other. I might have known thee by that pretty maiden air of thine, that dainty finkering manner of gait. Dost thou not know me, lad? Look upon me well. No, by the breath of my body, cried the other, I do believe from my heart that thou art mine own Uncle Robin. Nay, certain is so. And each flung his arms around the other, kissing him upon the cheek. Then once more Robin held his kinsman off at arm's length, and scanned him keenly from top to toe. Why, how now? Quoth he. What changes here? Verily, some 8 or 10 years ago I left thee a stripling lad, with great joints and ill-hung limbs, and lo, here thou art, as tight a fellow as e'er I set my eyes upon. Dost thou not remember, lad, how I showed thee the proper way to nip the goose feather betwixt thy fingers, and throw out thy bow arm steadily? Thou gavest great promise of being a keen archer. And dost thou not mind how I taught thee to fend and parry with a cudgel? Yea, said young Gamwell, and I did so look up to thee, and thought thee so above all other men that I make my vow, had I known who thou had I known who thou wert, I would never have dared to lift hand against thee this day. And I trust I did thee no great harm. No, no, quoth Robin hastily, and looking sideways at Little John. Thou didst no harm me. But say no more of thy, I pray thee. Yet I will say, lad, that I hope I may never feel again such a blow as thou didst give me. By Our Lady, my arm doth tingle yet from finger-nail to elbow. Truly I thought I was palsied for life. I tell thee, coz, that thou art the strongest man that ever I laid my eyes upon. I take my vow, I feel my stomach quake when I beheld thee pluck up yon green tree, as thou didst. But tell me, how camest thou to leave Sir Edward and thy mother? Alas, answered young Gamwell, it is an ill story, uncle, that I have to tell thee. My father's steward, who came to us after old Giles Crookleg died, was ever a saucy varlet, and I know not why my father kept him, saving that he did oversee with great judgment. It used to gall me to hear him speak up so boldly to my father, who thou knowest was ever a patient man to those about him, and slow to anger and harsh words. Well, one day, and an ill day it was for that saucy fellow, he sought to berate my father, I standing by. I could stand it no longer, good uncle, so stepping forth, I gave him a box of the ear. And wouldst thou believe it? The fellow straightway died. I think they said I broke his neck or something o' the like. So off they packed me to seek thee, and escape the law. I was on my way when thou sawest me, and here I am. Well, by the faith of my heart, quoth Robin Hood, for any one escaping the law thou wilt take it the most easy that ever I beheld in all my life. Whenever did any one in all the world see one who had slain a man and was escaping because of it, tripping along the highway like a dainty court damsel, sniffing at a rose the while? Nay, uncle, answered Will Gamwell, over hast never churned good butter, as the old saying hath it. Moreover, I do verily believe that this overstrength of my body hath taken the nimbleness out of my heels. Why, thou didst but just now rap me thrice, and I thee never a once save by overbearing thee by my strength. Excuse me. Nay, quoth Robin, let us say no more of that score. I am right glad to see thee, Will, and thou wilt add great honour and credit to my band of merry fellows. But thou must change thy name, for warrants will be out presently against thee. So because of thy gay clothes, thou shalt henceforth for I be called
Will Scarlet.
Will Scarlet, quoth Little John, stepping forward and reaching out his great palm, which the other took. Will Scarlet, the name fitteth thee well. Right well am I to welcome thee among us. I am called Little John, and this is a new member who has joined us, a stout tanner named Arthur a Bland. Thou art like to achieve fame, Will, let me tell thee, for there be many a merry ballad sung about the country, and many a merry story told in Sherwood of how Robin Hood taught Little John and Arthur a Bland the proper way to use the quarter-staff, as it were, how our good master bit off so large a piece of cake that he choked on it. Nay, good Little John, quoth Robin gently, for he liked ill to have such a jest told of him. Why should we speak of this little matter? Pray thee, let us keep this day's doings among ourselves. With all my heart, quoth Little John. But, good master, I thought that thou didst love a merry story, because thou hast so often made a jest about a certain increase of fatness on my joints, of flesh gathered by my abiding with the sheriff of Nay, good John, good Little John, said Robin hastily, I do bethink me I have said full enough on that score. It is well, quoth Little John, for in truth I did have tired of it somewhat. But now I bethink me thou didst also seem minded to make a jest of the rain that threatened last night, so Nay, then, said Robin Hood testily, I was mistaken. I remember me how it did seem to threaten rain. Truly I did think so myself, quoth Little John. Therefore, no doubt, thou dost think it was wise of me to abide all night at the Blue Boar Inn, instead of venturing forth in such stormy weather, dost thou not? A plague of thee and thy doings, cried Robin Hood. If thou wouldst have it so, thou wert right to abide whatever thou didst choose. Once more it is well, quoth Little John. As for myself, I have been blind this day. I did not see thee drubbed. I did not see thee tumble heels overhead in the dust. And if any man says that thou wert, I can with a clear conscience rattle his lying tongue betwixt his teeth. Come, cried Robin, biting his nether lip, while the others did not forbear laughing. We will go no farther today, but will return to Sherwood, and thou shalt go to Ancaster another day, Little John. So said Robin, for now his bones were sore. He felt as though a long journey would be an ill thing for him. So turning their backs, they retraced their steps, whence they came. Oh, wow. Give me a second, my dear scholars. I need a drink of water before we go to the last story of tonight. I hope you're enjoying the story. The meaning of Will Scarlet is actually one of my favorites. It's the one story I do very clearly remember of Robin Hood. I mean, I know the Little John one is famous and all that, but the one of Will Scarlet has always been my absolute favorite. And you'll notice actually, we've actually met now 3 Wills: Will Stuteley, Will Scarlock, and Will Scarlet. Much of the time in adaptations, they'll like combine all the Wills together. They did that in the 1938 version of Robin Hood, where they mixed actually all the Wills together and added in a little bit of Alan a Dale into Will Scarlet. But oddly enough, the live action Disney version, the first Disney version, not the animated one, but the live action one, features all 3 Wills in it, which is interesting. Which is a very rare thing to happen in these stories. Excuse me. So let us continue. 3. The Merry Adventure with Midge the Miller. When the four yeomen had travelled for a long time towards Sherwood again, high noontide being past, they began to wax hungry. Quoth Robin Hood, I would that I had somewhat to eat. Methinks a good loaf of white bread, with a piece of snow-white cheese, washed down with a draught of humming ale, were a feast for a king. Since thou speakest of it, said Will Scarlet, methinks it would not be amiss myself. There is that within me crieth out, Victuals, good friend, victuals.
I know a house near by, said Arthur a Bland, and had I but the money I would bring ye that ye speak of. To wit, a sweet loaf of bread, a fair cheese, and a skin of brown ale.
For the matter of that, thou knowest I have money by me, good master, quoth Little John. Why, so thou hast, Little John, said Robin. How much money will it take, good Arthur, to buy us meat and drink?
I think that 6 broad pennies will buy food and no for a dozen men, said the tanner.
Then give him 6 pennies, Little John, quoth Robin, for methinks food for 3 men will be about fit my need. Now get thee gone, Arthur, with the money, and bring the food here, for there is a sweet shade in that thicket yonder, beside the road, and there will we eat our meal. So Little John gave Arthur the money, and the others stepped to the thicket, there to await the return of the tanner. After a time he came back, bearing with him a great brown loaf of bread and a fair round cheese, and a goat skin full of stout March beer, slung over his shoulders. Then Will Scarlet took his sword and divided the loaf and the cheese into 4 fair portions, and each man helped himself. Then Robin Hood took a deep pull at the beer. Aha! said he, drawing in his breath. Never have I tasted sweeter drink than this. After this no man spake more, but each munched away at his bread and cheese lustily, with ever and anon a pull at the beer. At last Will Scarlet looked at a small piece of bread he still held in his hands, and quoth he, Methinks I will give this to the sparrows. So throwing it from him, he brushed the crumbs from his jerkin. I too, quoth Robin, have had enough, I think. As for Little John and the tanner, they had by this time eaten every crumb of their bread and cheese. Now, sweet friends, quoth Robin, gathering up the skin of beer that was not yet nearly empty, I do wish that ye may ever have such happiness as a good stout meal like this bringeth to my heart. Thus pledging you all, I drink to your health, that it may ever remain such as it is this day. So saying, he took a long, hearty pull at the stout beer. Next Will Scarlet took the skin, then Little John, and last of all the stout tanner. A good full skin of beer, as fat as a town tradesman, began the round. A poor flabby hide came forth, as weak and limp as an aged man. Now, quoth Robin, I do feel myself another man, and would fain enjoy something pleasant before going further upon our journey. I do bethink me, Will, that thou didst use to have a pretty voice, and one that tuned sweetly upon a song. Pray thee, give us one ere we journey farther. Truly, I do not mind turning a tune, answered Will Scarlet, but I would not sing alone. Nay, others will follow. Strike up, lad, quoth Robin. In that case, 'tis well, said Will Scarlet. I do call to mind a song that a certain minstrel used to sing in my father's hall, upon occasion. I know no name for it, and so can give you none, but thus it is. Then clearing his throat, he sang as follows. Oh my goodness, more songs, my dear scholars, more songs. Question is, can I sing in his voice? Let me set up a little bit. Let me see what there is for the things. Oh, I see why this chapter's so long. It actually has one song in it where it goes on for like 6 pages. Okay. Mm. In the merry blossom time, when love longings flood the breast, when the flower is on the thyme, when the small fowl builds her nest, sweetly sings the nightingale, and the thistle cock so bold, cuckoo in the dewy dale, and the turtle in the wold. But the robin I love dear, for he singeth through the year. Robin, Robin, merry Robin, so I'd have my true love be, not to fly at the nigh sign of cold adversity. When the spring brings sweet delights, when aloft the lark doth rise, lovers woo, oh mellow lights, and youths peep in maidens' eyes. That time blooms the eglantine, daisied pride upon the hills, cowslips fair and columbine, dusky violets by the rill. Excuse me. But the ivy green doth grow, but the north wind bringeth snow. Ivy, ivy, stanch and true, thus had have her love to be, not to die at the nigh, neath breath of cold adversity. Oh, hello there, Lazari Swan. Welcome! Glad to have you here. You just came in as I was singing, well, attempting to sing, from Robin Hood, Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. Glad to have you here. Need to have my drink. We are in the last section of the night, the Merry Adventure with Midge the Miller. So you came in at a great time, and I'm glad to have you here. Excuse me. 'Tis well, son, quoth Robin, but cousin, I tell thee plain, I would rather hear a stout fellow like thee sing some lusty ballad, than a finicking song of flowers and birds, and what not. Yet thou didst sing it fair, and 'tis none not so bad a snatch of a song, for the matter of that. Now, Tanner, it is thy turn next.
I know not,
Quoth Arthur, smiling, with his head on one side, like a budding lass that is asked to dance.
I know not that I can match our sweet friend's song.
Oh, thank you for the follow, Lazari Swan. Welcome. You're stuck with me now. Well, welcome, and glad to have you here as part of our marvelous group of scholars. Glad to have you. Thank you for the follow. Makes me smile. Where was I? Ah, okay.
I know not that I can match our sweet friend's song. Moreover, I do verily think that I have caught a cold, and have a certain tickling and huskiness in the windpipe.
Nay, sign up, friend, quoth Little John, who sat next to him, patting him upon the shoulder.
Thou hast a fair, round, mellow voice. Let us have a touch of it. Nay, and ye will hear how poor thing,
said Arthur.
I will do my best. Have ye ever heard of the wooing of Sir Keith, the stout young Cornish knight, in good King Arthur's time?
Methinks I have heard somewhat of it, said Robin. But nevertheless, strike up thy ditty, and let us hear it. For as I do remember me, it is a gallant song. So out with it, good fellow. Thereupon, clearing his throat, the tanner, without more ado, began to sing the ballad of The Wooing of Sir Keith. Six. So I'm about to sing in the tanner's voice 7 pages. So be prepared, my dear scholars, for this. I'm not sure if my voice will hate in there. Oh my goodness, I have to do it in the tanner's voice. Need lots of water for this one. Okay, let's try this. And I apologize if I unfortunately break your eardrums tonight. It's hard to sing in character voices. Sit up a little bit more.
King Arthur sat in his royal hall, and about on either hand was many a noble lordling tall, the greatest in the land. Sat Lancelot with robin locks, Sir Gawain with golden hair, Sir Tristram Kay who can.
Oh, thank you for the follow, Matt Hayes. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Glad to have every new scholar here. I am Matsu Quinox, interdimensional omniversal librarian. I do readings on Tuesdays. Not no, I do gaming on Tuesdays and readings on Thursdays. And I am currently going to try and sing this song in the voice of a character from the book, and it is probably going to kill my vocal cords.
Sir Tristram Kay who kept the locks, and many another there. And through the stained windows bright, from o'er the red-tilled eaves, the sunlight blazed with coloured lights on golden helms and greaves. But suddenly a silence came upon the table round, for up the hall there walked a dame, bent high unto the ground. Her nose was hooked, her eyes were bleared, her locks were lank and white. Upon her chin there grew a beard, she was a gruesome sight.
Zen, I had no clue that there was an old school rap battle in Robin Apparently there is. Apparently there is. There's ballad battles all over the place in this book.
And so with crawling step she came and kneeled at Arthur's feet. Quoth Kay, she is the foulest dame that e'er my sight did greet. O mighty king, of thee I crave a boon on bended knees. 'Twas thus she spoke, what wouldst thou have? Quoth Arthur, king, of me. Quoth she, I have a foul disease, doth gnaw my very heart, and but one thing can bring me ease, or cure my bitter smart. There is no rest, no ease for me, north, east, or west, or south, till Christian knight will willingly thrice kiss me on the mouth.
That is a that is a very specific cure. Huh. Anyway.
Nor wedded may this child have been that giveth ease to me, nor may he be constrained, I ween, but kiss me willingly. So is there here one Christian knight of such a noble strain, that he will give a tortured wight sweet ease of mortal pain. A wedded man, quoth Arthur King, a wedded man I be, else would I deem it noble vain to kiss thee willingly. Now, Lancelot, in all men's sights thou art the head and chief of chivalry. Come, noble knight, and give her quick relief. But Lancelot he turned aside and looked upon the ground, for it did sting his haughty pride to hear them laugh around. Come thou, Sir Tristram, quoth the king. Quoth he, it cannot be, for ne'er can I my stomach bring to do it willingly. Wilt thou, Sir Kay, thou scornful wight? Quoth Kay, nay, be my troth. What noble dame would kiss a knight that kissed so foul a moth? Wilt thou, Gawain? I cannot, king. Sir Gerard, nay, not I. My kisses no relief could bring, for sooner would I die. Then up and spake the youngest man of all about the board. Now such relief as Christian can I'll give to her, my lord. It was Sir Keith, a youthful knight, yet strong of limb and bold, with beard upon his chin as light as finest threads of gold. Quoth Kay, he hath no mistress yet that he may call his own, but here is one that's quick to get, as she herself has shown. He kissed her once, he kissed her twice, he kissed her 3 times o'er. A wondrous change came in a thrice, and she was foul no more. Her cheeks grew red as any rose, her brow as white as lawn, her bosom like the winter snows, her eyes like those of fawn. Her breath grew sweet as summer breeze that blows the meadows o'er, her voice grew soft as rustling trees, and cracked and harsh no more. Her hair grew glittering like the gold, her hands as white as milk, her filthy rags, so foul and old, were changed to robes of silk. In great amaze the knights did stare, and quoth Kay, I make my vow, if it will please thee, lady fair, I'll gladly kiss thee now. But young Sir Keith kneeled on one knee, and kissed her robes so fair. Oh, let me be thy slave, said he, for none to thee compare. She bent her she bent her down, she kissed his brow, she kissed his lips and eyes. Quoth she, thou art my master now, my lord, my love, arise. And all the wealth that is mine own, my lands I give to thee, for never knight hath lady shown such noble courtesy. Bewitched was I in bitter pain, but thou hast set me free. So now I am myself again. I give myself to thee.
Oh my goodness, that is hard to sing. If it was a sing, it was more me speaking than it was singing. But it was difficult nonetheless. What'd you think, Horace? There's always one harsh critic. Yes, truly, quoth Robin Hood, when the tanner had made an end of singing. It is as I remember it. A fair ditty, and a ballad with a pleasing tune of a song. It hath oftentimes seemed to me, said Will Scarlet, that it hath a certain motive in it, and such as this, that a duty which seemeth to us sometimes ugly and harsh, when we do kiss it fairly upon the mouth, so to speak, is no such foul thing after all. Methinks thou art right, quoth Robin, and counterize, that when we kiss a pleasure that apparently gay, it turneth foul to us. It is it not so, Little John? Truly such a thing hath brought thee sore thumps this day. Nay, man, never look down in the mouth. Clear thy pipes and sing us a ditty. Nay, said Little John, I have none as fair as that merry Arthur has trolled. They are all poor things that I know. Moreover, my voice is not in tune today, and I would not spoil even a tolerable song by ill singing. Upon this all pressed Little John to sing, so that when he had denied them a proper length of time, such as is seemly in one that is asked to sing, he presently yielded. Quoth he, Well, and ye will ha it so, I will give you what I can. Like to fair Will, I have no title to my ditty, but thus it runs. Then clearing his voice, he sang. Oh my goodness, we're gonna have songs all night long. O lady mine, the spring is here, with a hey nonny nonny, the sweet love season of the year, with a ninny ninny nonny. Now lad and lass lie in the grass that groweth green with flowers between. The buck doth rest, the leaves do start, the cock doth crow, the breeze doth blow, and all things laugh in. Who may yon fellow be coming along the road? said Robin, breaking into the song.
I know not,
Quoth Little John in a surly voice.
but this I do know, that it is an ill thing to do to check the flow of a good song.
Nay, Little John, said Robin, be not vexed, I pray thee. But I have been watching him coming along, bent beneath that great bag over his shoulder, ever since thou didst begin thy song. Look, Little John, I pray, and see if thou knowest him. Little John looked whither Robin Hood pointed.
Truly, quoth he after a time, I think yon fellow is a certain young miller I have seen now and then around the edge of Sherwood. A poor wight, methinks, to spoil a good song about.
Now thou speakest of him, quoth Robin Hood, methinks I myself have seen him now and then. Hath he not a mill over beyond Nottingham town, nay to Salisbury Road?
Thou art right, that is the man, said Little John.
A good stout fellow, quoth Robin. I saw him crack Ned O'Bradford's crown about a fortnight since, and never saw a hair lifted more neatly in all my life before. By this time the young miller had come so near that they could see him clearly. His clothes were dusted with flour, and over his back he carried a great sack of meal, bending so as to bring the whole weight upon his shoulders, and across the sack was a thick quarterstaff. His limbs were stout and strong, and he strode along the dusty road right sturdily with the heavy sack across his shoulders. His cheeks were ruddy as a winter hip, and his hair was flaxen in color, and on his chin was a downy growth of flaxen beard. A good honest fellow, quoth Robin Hood, and such a one as a credit to English yeomen. Now let us have a merry jest with him. We'll forth as though we were common thieves, and pretend to rob him of his honest gains. Then we will take him into the forest and give him a feast, such as his stomach never held in all his life before. We will flood his throat with good canary, and send him home with crowns in his purse for every penny he hath. What say ye, lads? Truly, it is a merry thought, said Will Scarlet.
It is well planned,
quoth Little John,
but all the saints preserve us from any more drubbings this day. Marry, my poor bones ache so that I—
Pray thee peace, Little John, quoth Robin. Thy foolish tongue will get us both well laughed at. Yet.
My foolish tongue, forsooth,
quoth Little John to Arthur a Bland.
I would it could keep our master from getting us into another coil this day.
But now the miller, plodding along the road, had come opposite to where the yeoman lay hidden, whereupon all four of them ran at him and surrounded him. Hold, friend, cried Robin to the miller, whereupon he turned slowly with the weight of the bag upon his shoulder, and looked at each in turn, all bewildered, for though a good stout man, his wits did not skip like roasting chestnuts.
Who bids me stay?
said the miller in a voice deep and gruff like the growl of a great dog. Marry, that do I, quoth Robin, and let me tell thee, friend, thou hast best mind my bidding.
And who art thou, good friend?
said the miller, throwing the great sack of meal from his shoulders to the ground.
And who art thou with thee?
We be four good Christian men, quoth Robin, and would fain help thee by carrying part of thy heavy load for thee.
I'll give you all my thanks,
said the miller,
but my bag is none that heavy that I cannot carry in by myself.
Nay, thou dost mistake, quoth Robin. I meant that thou mightest perhaps have some heavy farthings or pence about thee, not to speak of silver or gold. Our good Gaffer Swathold saith that gold is an over-heavy burden for a two-legged ass to carry. So we would end life some of this load from thee.
Alas! cried the miller, what would ye do to me? I am not about so much as a clipped grot. Do me no harm, I pray you, but let me part in peace. Moreover, let me tell you that ye are upon Robin Hood's ground. and should he find you seeking to rob an honest craftsman, he will clip your ears to your heads and scourge you even to the walls of Nottingham.
In truth, I fear Robin Hood no more than I do myself, quoth jolly Robin. Thou must this day give up to me every penny thou hast about thee. Nay, if thou dost budge an inch, I will rattle this staff upon about thine ears.
Nay, smite me not,
Cried the miller, throwing up his elbow as though he feared the blow.
thou mayst search me if thou wilt. If thou wilt, but thou wilt find nothing upon me, pouch, pocket, or skin.
Is it so? Quoth Robin Hood, looking keenly upon him. Now I believe that what thou tells is no true tale. If I am not much mistook, thou hast something at the bottom of that fat sack of meal. Good Arthur, empty the bag upon the ground. I warrant thou wilt find a shilling or two in the flour.
Alas,
Cried the miller, falling upon his knees.
spoil not my good meal. It can better thou it there. It can better you not, and will ruin me. Spare it, and I will give up the money in the bottom of the bag.
Ha! Quoth Robin, nudging Will Scarlet. Is it so? And have I found where thy money lies? Marry, I have a wondrous nose for the blessed image of good King Harry. I thought that I smelt gold and silver beneath the yeah, I swell. I smelt. I thought that I smelt gold and silver beneath the barley meal. Bring it straight forth, miller. Then slowly the miller arose to his feet, and slowly, unwillingly, he untied the mouth of the bag, and slowly thrust his hands into the meal, and began fumbling about with his arms buried to the elbows in the barley flour. The others gathered round him, their heads together, looking and wondering what he would bring forth. So they stood, all with their heads close together, gazing down into the sack. But while he pretended to be searching for the money, the miller gathered 2 great handfuls of meal.
Ha!
Quoth he.
Here they are, the beauties.
Then, as the others leaned still more forward to see what he had, he suddenly cast the meal into their faces, blinding and half choking them. Arthur O'Bland was worse off than any, for his mouth was open agape with wonder of what was to come, so that a great cloud of flour flew down his throat, setting him a coughing till he could scarcely stand. Then, while all 4 stumbled about, roaring with the smart of the meal in their eyeballs, that would hurt. And while they rubbed their eyes till the tears made great channels on their faces through the meal, the miller seized another handful of flour, and another, throwing it in their faces, so that even had they had a glimmering of light before, they were now as blind as ever a beggar in Nottinghamshire, while their hair and beards and clothes were as white as the snow. Then, catching up his great crab staff, the miller began laying about him as though he were clean gone mad. This way and that skipped the 4, like peas on a drumhead, but they could neither see to defend themselves nor to run away. Thwack! Thwack! Went the miller's cudgel across their backs, and at every blow great white clouds of flour rose in the air from their jackets and went drifting down the breeze. "Stop!" roared Robin at last. "Give over, good friend. I am Robin Hood."
Thou lies, thou knave,
cried the miller, giving him a rap on the ribs that sent up a great cloud of flour like a puff of smoke.
Stout Robin never robbed an honest tradesman. Ha! Thou wouldst have given my money, wouldst thou?
And he gave him another blow.
Nay, thou art not getting thy share, thou long-legged knave. Share and share alike.
And he smote Little John across the shoulders, so that he sent him skipping half across the road.
Nay, fear not, it is thy turn now, Blackbeard.
And he gave the tanner a crack that made him roar for all his coughing.
How now, Redcoat? Let me brush the dust from thee,
cried he, smiting Will Scarlet, and so he gave them merry words and blows until they could scarcely stand. And whenever he saw one like to clear his eyes, he threw more flour in his face. At last Robin Hood found his horn, and clapping it to his lips, blew 3 loud blasts upon it. Now it chanced that Will Stuteley and a party of Robin's men were in the glade not far from where this merry sport was going forward. Hearing the hubbub of voices and blows that sounded like the noise of a flail in the barn at winter time, they stopped, listening and wondering what was toward. Quoth Will Stuteley, "Now, if I mistake not, there is some stout battle with cudgels going forward not far hence. I would fain see. Oh, wait, I forgot Will Studley's Scottish. I gave him a Scottish accent. Now, if I mistake not, there is some stout battle with cudgels going forward not far hence. I would fain see this pretty sight." It's hard to keep track of some of these character voices. So saying, he and the whole party turned their steps whence the noise came. When they had come near where all the tumult sounded, they heard the 3 blasts of Robin's bugle horn. "Quick!" cried young David of Doncaster. "Our master is in sore need." So without stopping a moment, they dashed forward with might and main, and burst forth from the covert into the high road. But what a sight was that which they saw! The road was all white with meal, and 5 men stood there also white with meal from top to toe, for much of the barley flour had fallen back upon the miller. "What is thy need, master?" cried Will Stuteley. And what doth all this mean?" "Why," quoth Robin in a mighty passion, "yon traitor fellow hath come as nigh slaying me as e'er a man in all the world. Hadst thou not come quickly, good Stuteley, thy master had been dead." Hereupon, whilst he and the 3 others rubbed the meal from their eyes, and Will Stuteley and his men brushed their clothes clean, he told them all how that he had meant to pass a jest upon the miller, which same had turned so grievously upon them. "Quick, men, seize the vile miller!" cried Stuteley, who was nigh choking with laughter, as were the rest, whereupon several ran upon the stout fellow, and seizing him bound his arms behind his back with bowstrings. "Ha!" cried Robin, when they brought the trembling miller to him. "Thou wouldst murder me, wouldst thou? By my faith!" Here he stopped and stood glaring upon the miller with a grim look. But Robin's anger could not hold, so first his eyes twinkled, and then in spite of all he broke into a laugh. Now, when they saw their master laugh, the yeomen who stood around could contain themselves no longer, and a mighty shout of laughter went up from all. Many could not stand, but rolled upon the ground from pure merriment. "What is thy name, good fellow?" said Robin at last to the miller, who stood gaping as though he were in a maze.
"Alas, sir, I am Midge, the miller's son,"
said he in a frightened voice. "I make my vow," quoth merry Robin, smiting him upon the shoulder, "thou art the mightiest Midge that e'er mine eyes beheld. Now wilt thou leave thy dusty mill, and come and join my band? By my faith, thou art too stout a man to spend thy days betwixt the hopper and the till."
"Then, truly, if thou dost forgive me for the blows I struck, not knowing who thou wast, I will join with thee right merrily,"
said the miller. "Then have I gained this day," quoth Robin, "the 3 stoutest yeomen in all Nottinghamshire. We will get us away to the greenwood tree, and there hold a merry feast in honor of yeah, and no, I can't talk. And there hold a merry feast in honor of our new friends, and mayhap a cup or two of good sack and canary may mellow the soreness of my poor joints and bones, though I warrant it will be many a day before I am again the man I was. So saying, he turned and led the way, the rest following, and so they entered the forest once more, and were lost to sight. So that night all was ablaze with crackling fires in the woodlands, for though Robin and those others spoke of, only excepting Midge, the miller's son, had many a sore bump and bruise here and there on their bodies, they were still not so sore in the joints that they could not enjoy a jolly feast given all in welcome to the new members of the band. Thus with songs and jesting and laughing that echoed through the deeper and more silent nooks of the forest, the night passed quickly along, as such merry times are wont to do, until at last each man sought his couch, and silence fell on all things, and all things seemed to sleep. Thus came about 3 merry adventures in one day, the one stepping upon the heels of another. But Little John's tongue was ever one that was not easy to guidance, so that inch by inch the whole story of his fight with the tanner and Robin's fight with Will Scarlet leaked out, and so I have told it that you may laugh at the merry tale along with me. Now happenings so come upon us in the world that the serious things of this world become so mixed up with the merry things that our life is all of a jumble of black and white, as it were like the boards of checkered black and white upon which country folk play draughts at the inn beside the blazing fire of a winter's night. So things fell out with Robin Hood. For this day of merry sport, through which we have just trudged and buffered with him, and certain other mad wags, were speedily followed by one in which, though merriment was a doing, more weighty matters were undertaken. So listen to what follows. And we will stop there, my dear scholars. We are almost halfway through the book. Almost. But we've had some fun, you know? We've met 3 new characters, had a lot of songs sung, and, well, what can I say? Had a lot of new voices added. And some 2 wonderful new scholars joining us, which I thank. So then, oh my goodness, next week, well, the rest of the week, next week, Sunday, it sounds like we may have the return of the Dracula collab. Oh, I am excited. It's going to be fun again. I love doing the Dracula collab. So keep your eyes out. It'll be on Aseo's channel, like last time. But I believe it'll be at 4 Central, like last time as well. So keep your eyes peeled for news. Um, then Tuesday, it sounds like, from what I was told, Tuesday we might be finishing Psychonauts. Oh, it's gonna be exciting. I have had a blast playing that game, and it's been a lot of fun. And then next Thursday we will read more Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, if everything goes according to plan. Firefly, the 11th for Dracula. It is no. It would be what is this date? The 4th. The 4th. It'll be the 4th. This upcoming Sunday, the 4th for Dracula. If everything goes according to plan and if it's actually happening, I'll keep you all informed. So let's see if there's anyone we can raid tonight before we go. see. You know what? Here's someone we haven't rated, I think, before. Let's rate Lakaios EXE. They are playing Tunic. I think it might be fun. I don't think there's any reading streams going on right now. At the moment. So yes, we'll raid Lakaios for tonight. Oh! Jewelry Jelly, we just got a raid. We are just about closing out the night, Jewelry Jelly. Thank you for the raid. Oh, what were you playing? Oh my goodness, I was not expecting that. Let's give us a shout out to Jewelry Jelly if I can spell. Oh, wonderful. Still working on FF5. Oh, wonderful. I love that game. I think. Oh, there we are. Yes, please follow Jewelry Jelly. She is fantastic. She's a fantastic streamer. Okay, so we were about to leave. So then, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.